Good evening. Some public sector groups were given clearance to receive salaries earlier today. This was announced by Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark. This follows public sector groups expressing disappointment. One such group is the Nurses Association. The group's president, Patsy Edwards Henry, up to midday today expressed disappointment that the nurses had not been paid.
December 21, the Nurses Association and its membership are disappointed that we have not been paid yet. So I am waiting for my members to give me information, and we have been in dialogue with both ministries and the regional health authorities, and we are hoping that by midday today, all nurses across the island, the 4 regional health authorities, Bellevue, and the University Hospital of the West Indies, whom we represent, will be paid. It's sad to know that we have gone through the processes. We did what we were asked to do. And at the end of the day, that trust that we put in our ministries and our government is not played out. So we're still hoping for the best while others continue to hope, because that's the word we're getting on the ground. They hope we will be paid. Nothing definitive, but we're still hoping for the best.
The Ministry of Finance and the Public Service had called a press conference just before noon to address the implementation of the public sector compensation system. Dr. Clark said that 5 outstanding public sector groups would receive payments by this afternoon.
My responsibility is to pay. Our responsibility, the public services responsibility, is to pay out the funds. And that's what we do every single month. And for this month, we have paid we paid 42 out of 52 yesterday. And my expectation is that we'll pay the further 10 out of 52 today, a delay of 24 hours. And that's where our responsibility is, the payout of the funds from the Accountant General's Department.
He also explained that employees from 47 ministries, departments, and agencies were cleared to receive salaries.
Information that we're providing is that, as at now, 47 of the 52 entities, the Accountants General has transferred the funds. We are also providing what our expectation is, that by 1 o'clock today, for the other 5, the Accountant General would have the clearance to transfer the funds. And that is the responsibility of the Accountant General's Department and the payroll officers and the Ministry of Finance. So we would be, for those entities, would experience a delay of a day in the transfer of the funds from the Accountant General's Department. Now, a delay of a day in the transfer of the funds from the Accountant General's Department is not an experience that is unusual. We are holding this press conference today only because of the circumstances in which this delay of a day is happening. It's not an ordinary payday. It's a payday that includes the arrears for an entirely new compensation system, a transformation of which we don't have a historical precedent. So it's in that context that we're providing an update. But I would hope that you and your colleagues fully recognize that a delay of a day for 5 or 8 of the, whatever the number is, out of 52.
The minister further said that there were payroll system challenges with one group that could result in the retroactive sums being applied at a later date.
Yeah, let me just say that the Nurses of Jamaica perform an incredible function, and it has really been a pleasure working with the Nurses Association of Jamaica on this compensation restructuring. And they have every expectation, they have every reason to expect that both their December pay and their arrears are received on time. And to the extent that they have not been, that is something that we definitely regret, and something that we're working assiduously and feverishly to resolve. We're happy that the delay, is not significant. It should have been yesterday, but we're expecting it to happen today. Right? So I do not expect that at 5 o'clock this evening we'll be in the same position that we were at 5 o'clock yesterday.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force, the JCF, has been plunged into mourning following the death of a police constable in a motor vehicle accident in St. Elizabeth. The deceased has been identified as O'Shane Higgins of the St. Elizabeth Police Division. Reports are that Constable Higgins was involved in a car crash while on his way to the probationer's exam. He was admitted to hospital up to the time of his passing. The JCF said in a release announcing Constable Higgins' death, say they mourn with the commanding officer, staff, family, and friends. The police have identified the partially decomposed body of a man who was found floating in the water at the Harmony Beach Park in St. James yesterday. He's Carlos Matthews, an employee of the organization. According to police, Matthews was allegedly last seen alive on Sunday. His body was found yesterday about 2:25 p.m. Marine police officers and divers assigned to the Jamaica Constabulary Force were called into the facility to recover his body. Lawmen said that Matthews' death is a suspected drowning, as there is no evidence of foul play. The 45-year-old bus conductor who pleaded guilty to killing his ex-girlfriend's 7-year-old niece and dumping her body into the Rio Cobre in St. Catherine was given a plea deal that could see him back on the streets in 21 years. Vivian Vernon of Portmore Villa in Gregory Park, St. Catherine, who was yesterday sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 21 years, also pleaded guilty to attempted arson and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. On November 3, 2014, Vernon had an altercation with his ex-girlfriend Cassandra Taff at her house in Gregory Park, during which she stabbed him several times with a pair of scissors. It was reported that later that night, Vernon returned to the house and attempted to set fire to it. He managed to set some curtains ablaze before fleeing. Further reports are that on November 5, Kalisha Cousin, Taft's niece, was seen with him around 7 in the morning after she had left home for school. Vernon, who was well known to Kalisha, was seen leading her through a track in the direction of Dyke Road near the Rio Cobre. Her body was found 2 days later in the river. In the meantime, one man was arrested in connection with the seizure of an illegal firearm and several rounds of ammunition at the intersection of Bread Lane and Charles Street, Kingston 14 yesterday. Reports from the Denhamtown Police are that about 9:10 p.m., while lawmen were on patrol, a man was seen who aroused their suspicion. He was accosted, searched, and a Taurus 9mm pistol and 6 rounds of .38 rounds of ammunition seized. He was taken into custody, however, his identity is being withheld at this time. Investigations are ongoing. Meanwhile, a Smith & Wesson revolver with 5.38 rounds of ammunition were seized along Holborn Road, New Kingston in St. Andrew yesterday. 3 men were arrested in connection with the seizure. Reports from the New Kingston Police are that about 11:45 p.m., 3 men were accosted along the main road, searched, and the firearm found. The men were subsequently arrested. However, their identities are being withheld pending further investigations. As consumers continue to shop during the Yule season, the Consumer Affairs Commission, the CAC, is advising shoppers not to accept poorly documented cash register tapes as substitute for receipts from vendors. Cash register tapes vary from store to store, but generally contains the merchant's details, including a GCT number, the store's refund or exchange policy, and limited information about the items bought. Oftentimes, tapes are passed off as receipts. The Director of Communications at the CAC, Latoya Halstead, is reminding the public that receipts must reflect the name of the entity, its address, contact number, and a description of the item bought. She explained that a receipt makes the redress process easier, especially in cases where the items bought is incorrect fit, defective, damaged, or does not meet expectations. Ms. Halstead is also urging shoppers to get written warranties for high-value items to include motor vehicles and appliances, as warranties guarantee that consumers can go back to the seller with a product within a particular period and have arising issues addressed without incurring additional costs. She noted, however, that in some cases, this is the opposite, and shoppers may have to bear the expense if the whole product is not covered by the security given by the vendor. And that's our news package for this evening. Thank you for tuning in to Mello TV News. I'm Nicole Hales. Pleasant viewing.